Okay, good evening, Upper Six. This is the follow-up video as promised to the initial NEA sessions that you had as part of last week's Thrive sessions and this week as well. So by now, each of you should have had one of those sessions which introduces you to the NEA and the introduction session with the section, sorry, which is what you'll be getting on with now. So you've already had that session. This, as I've said, is a follow-up to make sure that all the information is available to you from that session for you to follow up again. Best will in the world, sometimes things just skip over you, so here it is in its entirety, along with links to the website and that kind of thing, to really properly guide you through this section and give you maximal support outside of the classroom as well. So I'm going to be going through a PowerPoint. Bear with me while I load that. Okay, so we'll start with an NEA breakdown. So what I went through with in the session was that you have four sections to your NEA, your independent investigation. There's an introduction, there's a methods section, there's a data presentation and analysis, and there's conclusions and evaluations. As you can see, the introduction is worth 12 marks, the methods are worth 10, and the data presentation analysis and conclusions and evaluation section are worth 24 each. So that is obviously skewed very much towards the presentation analysis, conclusions and evaluation stage because it's A level and they are higher level skills, so they want you to be assessed on the higher level skills. As I said in the session, it's my belief that every single one of you in the year group is capable of achieving a 12 out of 12 and a 10 out of 10 on the methods. Yeah. And what I will be going through is the paramount importance of this introduction section to making sure that your coursework journey is as smooth as possible, which is why I'm providing maximum support at this stage. And I would absolutely encourage all of you to engage in this support. Yeah, remember you've got your 4 breakfast club sessions a week in the morning before college, 8 till 8:50. In addition to that, there will be your once a month touch points with your NEA Thrive sessions as part of referral. Okay, so please do take full advantage. You are not being left completely on your own with this. So, overview of the presentation that I'm going to give here. I'm going to go through the purpose of the introduction and the importance of getting it right, what the necessary components are, the investigation question and how you can get help generating this. You've already had a little bit of an overview of how to generate this, and some of you have even started to come up with your own questions and sub-questions successfully in that in the NEA session. And many of you are taking advantage of Breakfast Club and getting further clarification on what a valid question is. I'm going to take you through the literature review, the locational study, the comparative study, and the hypotheses as well. Okay, so the purpose of the introduction is essentially to outline the structure and the focus of your investigation for the reader. What you've got to assume is that the reader, the marker, has never done a day's geography in their life. So what you have to do is present everything with the reader, present the reader with everything that they need to understand your project, both theoretically, so they need to understand coastal systems, they need to understand placemaking, whatever your project focus is, they need to understand those core geographical concepts that are going to run throughout your project. And it will also help them appreciate your rationale for your project because you have to have a reason why you are investigating what you are investigating. Yeah, you want to find something out. That's the point of an investigation. Yeah. So why is it that you're wanting to find this out? And this is where the focus of your investigation is properly established. Yeah, through the generation of that overall question. So here is my investigation question for my particular location. And the sub questions as well are established that will help you to answer that overall question and also guide your data collection methodologies. So it's a really important stage to get correct. Yeah, we've got to get that question and sub questions right. So your necessary components here are the question, investigation title, the sub questions. You need to do your literature review, which is where you'll give that theoretical overview of the concepts and the core theories that the reader needs to understand. There'll be the location study as well. You'll choose a place that you want to do your investigation. Now, some of you are doing the places we'll be visiting in Grange over Sands, which are Morecambe, and obviously we're doing the site as well at Grange, and our comparative study as well, which is a similar site, yeah, similar site to the one that you're going to be studying. And as well, I'll go through the generation of your hypotheses for each of your sub questions too. Right, so the importance of the introduction. I can't state this enough, yeah? If you get the introduction right, it gives you the kind of outline for your project, the framework. What is it that I'm going to investigate? And based on what you choose to investigate, That will then lead on to the kinds of data collection methods that you will then be able to adopt as part of your project. Yeah. So certain focuses of project line up nicely with certain data collection methods. And then this is the really important part because certain data collection methods then line themselves up nicely with um, with data presentation and data analysis techniques. Now, this is where, in my experience in the past, I've noticed that students can gain and lose the most marks as a consequence of not thinking about this at the early stages of their project. So you need to be able to show the marker that you can present not just the kind of bog standard basic data presentation methods like bar charts and pie charts. You also want to show them that you can present data in quite a sophisticated way, like using GIS or creating like triangular graphs or rows and radial charts. You need a variety of data presentation. If you don't have a variety of data presentation, you are significantly hindering the chances of you getting in a higher level. So that's the reason for kind of almost selling you almost on the importance of getting the introduction right. Make sure that your questions or some of your sub questions line up to data collection methods that can allow you to then do sophisticated data presentation methods. I will go through this in a second, okay? And it's the same for your data analysis methods as well. Again, you want to be doing some sort of calculation that shows the significance of the results of your data collection. Yeah. So it's all got to line up and it's all got to be part of the thinking process. So one of the things I introduced you to was the Field Studies Council website, which is here. Okay. So just a reminder of where you can find this. There's the link there. But if you just Google Field Studies Council NEA 16 to 18, this site will come up. And what I asked everyone to do in the initial session was just start to scan through and start to think about the type of investigation that you want to do. In the past, I've seen toasts done very well, very successfully. I've marked a few full mark toasts investigations in my time. They do line up very nicely. Same, I've marked some very successful place-based investigations too. So the recommendation that I gave most of you was to start with coasts and place. And the initial thought process behind this is, what do you prefer? Do you prefer human geography or do you prefer physical geography? Go with what you prefer and have the strength in, yeah, because you want to try and get the most marks possible out of this process. So it's very much playing to your strengths. Okay. So for me, if it were me, and I went through the scenario, if it were me, I would go down the coasts route. Now, what the Field Studies Council website gives you is different options for different projects. Okay, so you've got maybe you want to do high energy coasts, maybe you want to do low energy coasts, maybe you want to do coastal management, which is something that we're going to be doing when we go to Grange. So I said that was a good idea to look at. Low energy coasts we'll be doing a little bit of, but I've mentored on a lot of low energy coastline projects, so I know how to advise people on the low energy coast as well. Now, the beauty of this website is it can really help you structure your project. In particular, when you scroll down to this section here, because I've always said that one of the hardest bits about starting your project is coming up with that initial question and coming up with the sub questions that go with it. What this website does for you is gives you viable question options. Yeah. Why is there an uneven distribution of depositional landforms in the coastal landscape at X being the location of choice? How and why does beach morphology vary between different parts of the coast? Yeah, and then it gives you the viable questions. Okay, now you don't have to stick to these sub questions. You can use you might want to use this question here and you might want to use some of these sub questions up here. Yeah, that's all part of the process. Remember, you're designing your own projects. Beach morphology one is a really smart place to start because there's so many things that influence beach morphology. So it could be a basic investigation into what the influences of on beach morphology are, or this one here is a difference one. Yeah, and you might think, well, what is it that then goes into beach morphology? Why does a beach change? Okay, we can look at wave action. We can look at how the sediment are arranged, which might give us an indication as to what's in what's influencing the beach morphology. and maybe we can measure wind speeds at different locations and see if that might have some sway on it. It's one of those where you have to think backwards from what data could I collect here that would give me the answer to this question? Yeah, what can I investigate out of each? Yeah. Or you can just use these that are given to you by the Field Studies Council website. Yeah. And then we as the teachers and the mentors can help kind of guide you towards are these the right questions for you? All right. Now I mentioned before about trying to line it up. Yeah, trying to line it up with the data presentation and the data analysis. Now, this site is great for that. Because let's say you choose a low energy coastline investigation and something along these lines here. It might not be fully formulated yet. What you can do then is look ahead and think like, right, say I do choose this, and say I choose this set of questions and sub-questions. What methods are available to me? Yeah, so say I want to do an investigation on beach morphology. Oh, great. Oh, cool. Look at all this data collection. I can do beach profiles. I can do coarse sediment analysis. I can do fine sediment analysis. I can look at longshore drift. If I want to look at the waves as part of mapping, I want to do a wave survey. Let's have a look. Let's see what the wave survey is all about. Yeah, and you can go down and you can see the data collection methods that are utilized. Yeah, so you can, and it tells you. Yeah, it tells you exactly what methods you can do, and even better, it then lines up and if I collect that data, how might I present that data? So there we go, beach profile. It shows you. It shows you how to present the data. So we've got some bar charts there. We've got some GIS just there. We've got this. Yeah. We've got some pie charts on some GIS. We've got some box and whisker diagrams. We've got a scatter graph. Yeah, and there's more data presentation methods that can also be explored as well. What about my analysis? What about a calculation? Ooh, let's have a look. Does it leave me scope for a calculation? Yeah, definitely if I'm measuring sediment. So this might be one of my things. This might be one of my things. I know then it lines up with all the things that the mark scheme's looking for. Okay. So that has to come into your project design. All right. So I would very much encourage you to take a look at the Field Studies Council website and take a look at the different projects that they would recommend. Because remember, they do exactly the same for place-based stuff as well. So if you're in place, do you want to do inequalities where you're looking at the difference between places? Or do you want to just do placemaking? Yeah, perceptions, representation, rebranding, regeneration, looking at the success of a regeneration project, looking at the success of a community project or a community centre or something like that. Again, it lays out the research questions and your sub-questions. What this at least provides you with is a starting point. And once again, with everything, always do that. Do your due diligence, look at the method, look at the presentation, look at the analysis. Okay? So that covers your kind of project design stuff. And do spend the time doing this and do seek advice from myself and from Doug as well, who can guide you towards the right project that you might want to do. Okay. Now the question, I'll always say it, is the hardest part. All right. So there's two examples of some questions that would potentially work. Okay. But you want to keep them, you want to keep the overall question nice and broad, and you want to keep the study site nice and manageable scale. That's what you want to keep it. Okay. So the question is important because it will lead to an investigation where you will collect the data that will ultimately answer your question. Okay. So that's just taking you through the importance of using the field studies site. Okay. Now, in terms of project areas, we've already been through it. We can do coasts, regen, diverse places, carbon and water. They're probably the ones that you would most choose where most students do well. And as I've said, coasts, regen, and diverse places, they're the ones to choose really, I think, in terms of making your life as simple as possible. Right. Then once you've decided on that, you need to start with your literature review. Okay. Now, the literature review, it's like writing an essay. It is not, and I'll repeat that again, it is not an overview of your study site. Yeah, you are not giving me the background information on your study site. Do not talk specifically about your study site. I have seen this done too many times in the past. Yeah, do not talk to me about your study site. The literature review is about the theory. You're writing an essay, okay? So, as an example, a project about coastal management, you need to explain to the reader, what is coastal management? How is it conducted? How do we judge the success of it? Whereabouts is it? Who manages it? You need to tell me everything about coastal management that's relevant to your project so that I understand it. Yeah. Remember, I've never done a day's geography in my life. That's what you've got to assume. So you're going to need to sit down and you're going to need to read stuff. Yeah? You're going to need to read things. You're going to need to get a book. I've got loads of textbooks in the cupboard. Come to Breakfast Club, grab a textbook, grab a piece of paper, read the textbook with the relevant content areas, write some notes, grab another book. Yeah? Do the same thing. Grab another book, do the same thing. You want as many different sources as you can get. My aim for you is to get 10 different sources. And that's textbooks, websites, journals, and any other articles. Okay, now I'm going to show you journals and articles. I'm going to show you how to access those. Okay, but textbooks website. Now, please, please, for the love of God, don't use GCSE bite size. Yeah, you're at A level now. Okay, so you need to be aiming for those higher grade sources. Wikipedia, fine, but what I would prefer that you do is get some information, go down to the reference list at the bottom of the page and get it from source so you can reference that source rather than referencing Wikipedia. Okay, try as well to avoid revision guides as well. They're not good references. Yeah, you want to be showing the reader that you can engage in top quality references. All right. Now, firstly, I'll show you how to access high quality articles. Now, one of the best things that you can do is go for, if you type in geo fact file, they're always good. Yeah, geo fact file. So geo fact file and then the topic that you're after. Yeah, they're always good. Good things to go for. So let's go for geo fact file, regenerate. Okay. Okay, so there you go. An evaluation of regeneration in East Manchester. Yeah, so that might be. Oh no, geofact sheets. Sorry, geofact sheets. There you go. So this might be a great source of information. So this is where you can find all of the geofact sheets and what the numbers of these are. So if you type them in, yeah, so type in geofact sheets, not geofact file, geofact sheets, and you can see there's loads of these things. So if you need to get access to any of these, all you do is let us know which ones you need access to, and then we will try and get hold of those for you that you can put in your reference. Okay. The other one is if you're going for the proper top kind of university, almost university level stuff, you go and find Google Scholar. Okay. Now Google Scholar will give you access to journal articles. These are like scientific journal articles. Okay, so if you can just find maybe 2 or 3 of these and get them into your projects, that's great. So let's think. If I put in processes impacting beach geomorphology. Okay, so what we can see there is a book, so it can present you with books that are academic level books. Geomorphology of coastal environments, that's the same. Okay, so that is a journal article there. You can see it. Yeah. And again, if you need access to journal articles, we can try and get these. We can try and get these over to you. Yeah, we are an academic institution. We should be able to get them through the library. But again, 2 or 3 of these in your projects, that's great. Yeah, you want to be aiming for that if you can. Okay, so that is, oh, there you go. There's a really good one there. And another great tip here is if you find a really good journal article. So let's say this one here, geologically controlled sandy beaches, their morphology, morphodynamics, and classification. Yeah, it's quite high level reading, but all you need to do is read the abstract really, and it will give you enough. If you find this is a really useful article, what you can then do, really clever thing, is go here and type and click related articles. And then it will show you a load of other articles that are very similar to that one that could also potentially be useful for you. Okay, but this is quite high level stuff. So the best of us will aim to try and use, like I said, a couple of these. So you've got Google Scholar. Right. So how will this look? A few of you have said, how will this look when I'm laying it out? All right. So for now, just lay it out like this. So you put your overall question, you put your sub questions down there, okay, whatever state you're in right now, and then your literature review is just underneath. Okay. So this is an example of how I start my literature review. Yeah, so the concept of changing beach morphology is a large part of the coast module. Studies as part of the Edexcel specification, linking to key ideas 2B4 and 2B5. Key concepts for the reader to be aware of include, and I might say, the coastal sediment cell. This is the idea that a coastline exists as a closed system in dynamic equilibrium. Let's use the typos. Right. That's not knowledge from my own head. I've got that from somewhere. So what I now have to do is reference that. Let's say I read it in the textbook that's our course textbook. Now this is when you go to the MyBib um, referencing software. Yeah. Make sure that it's on Harvard. Yeah, we want to do Harvard referencing style. Okay. Now in here, I'm going to try to find the book that I was using. So I've typed in Edexcel A-Level Geography. Now, not only does this give me the reference that I need, it also gives me a list of other books. Okay? And you can do the same for journals. And you can do the same for websites here. And this is like a killing two birds with one stone style scenario. So if you're not finding Google Scholar very useful, you can use MyBib as a search engine. All right? So let's say I go on this, and I read it in this one here. What that's done now is created me a reference. Yeah. So it's created me a reference. Now this is the bibliography reference. So I put this, so copy bibliography entry. I've copied that. Now this goes right at the end of my entire project. So each time I put a reference in, I'm going to do that. There you go. Okay, so I've got the bibliography reference. But that's not the only thing that I need to do. Yeah, the thing that I then need to do is at the end of the sentence that I've just presented a piece of factual knowledge, I have to do what's called an in-text citation. So the in-text citation comes from doing this. So I'll again click that, and I'll say copy in-text citation. Go to my text, and because I got this piece of information from that book that I've just got the reference for, I do that, and then I carry on. Yeah, and I might say, there are numerous positive and negative feedback mechanisms within this system that lead to change in beach morphology throughout the year. Now, maybe I got that piece of information from another book. So I've got to now reference that book there. So I'll go back, add a reference, and I know I've got it from somewhere. What was the book called? It might be Beach Geomorphology. Ah, there you go. That was the book. Okay, so I've got that one there. So I go, right, I know I've got information from that book there. Copy my bibliography entry. Make sure that goes in the bibliography at the end. Boom. And then I need the in-text citation as well. So I go back to my bib and I say, there we go. Copy in-text citation. And boom, there we go. So that's just to emphasize that, look, what all I'm doing there is presenting theory. I'm not doing anything other than presenting theory in the literature review. And it's teaching the reader things that they need to understand because it's relevant. Okay. But remember that this theory is going to come back into play. It's going to come back into play when I think, do my results match with the theory? Ah, yes, maybe they do. Eric, 2011 said this would happen. Yeah, this is part of it. Okay, so that's hopefully giving you an overview of what the literature review is. It's an essay. You're going through the necessary theory. Okay, so that's my bib, and I've put a link here. Yeah, so you can always click that. But you must reference everything. And like I said, this can serve my bib. I'll just go back on here again. My bib can serve as a search engine as well. So let's say I'm thinking, right, Google Scholar's really not working for me. Let's try and search a journal article. Let's go for waves and beach morphology. There you go. This one here, steep beach morphology changes due to energetic wave forcing. That sounds great. Yeah. So I'll try and find that. Yeah, I'll try and find it. Maybe I'll find it on Google Scholar. Maybe I'll go to the library. Yeah. And try and see, do you have this book, or can someone give me access to this article here? Yeah, it's a journal article, so that seems like a great one. Okay, so do use these search engines as a way to generate your reference list. Okay, I'll go back to the now. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. Okay, moving forward then. So your location study, that is, it has to include a map at 4 scales, which I'll go through in a second. And it just is basically an overview of tell me about the location that you're going to. Yeah. And also tell me like why have you chosen this location here? Yeah, you could have chosen any location, you could have chosen any coastline. Like what do you know about this place? What have you read about this place that makes you think it's a viable option to do this kind of investigation? It's because this project is as much about anything. It's like you make a choice, but then you justify it as well. The justification of what you're doing at each point becomes very important for you to get that high mark. And only include the relevant stuff. So if there's a physical geography project at a specific location, don't tell me about the political party in power. I don't want to know. Yeah, why would I need to know that if you're telling me about beach morphology? It has no relevance to your project. So only include the stuff that's relevant. And you do exactly the same with your comparative study. Okay, so a map, 4 scales, necessary. Yeah, so if you're choosing to look at a low energy coastline, your comparative study will be a similar low energy coastline. Okay, and I'll come into the reason why we have a comparative study in a second. Okay, and it all comes down to then your hypotheses, which is the last section. So let me just show you this. So this is that's what I mean by the 4 scales. So let's say I'm investigating Piccadilly Gardens. I'm doing like a human geography investigation. Placemaking strategies utilized in Piccadilly Gardens. Um, There we go. So I go UK, I go region, I go city, I go, let's zoom into where Piccadilly Gardens actually is in Manchester. So spatially, I've got that spatial context. Yeah. And then the other stuff is like, if it's a human investigation, it might be population, demographic breakdown. Comparative study is somewhere similar. So it might be if you're doing an investigation in Piccadilly Gardens, the new Stockport terminal might be something that you could look at as a similar location. It's almost becoming like the Piccadilly Gardens, isn't it, of Stockport? All right. Now then we come on to your hypotheses. So I'll take you through these because these are really important. Now the generation of viable hypotheses is usually the thing that allows the project to jump up into the level 3 bracket. Okay. It shows a level of sophistication. It shows a level of competency at any level for you to be able to not only make predictions but justify them as well. Okay, so what are differences in beach morphology between points X, Y, and Z? You've got to make a prediction. That is a hypothesis. I expect the difference between points X and Y to be, and then you state what that is. Yeah. Now, in justifying your predictions, there's 2 ways that you can do this. Yeah. So how do you know that a certain thing is going to happen? Well, you read something, and theoretically, that's how it should happen. So I believe it will happen like that at my study site. So again, I would expect in your hypotheses to see references. You need to have some references. Okay. And again, the references will come from the literature review. So I read some stuff. I put it down in the literature review. You've already read it. And this is how I'm now going to justify my hypothesis. Yeah. As well as that, I've also looked at this similar study site and what was seen at this similar study site here, because there's some secondary data that I've managed to pick up about it. What was seen at this study site was also is also what I expect to see. So your justification for your predictions needs to involve both theory, you've got your theoretical justification, and you've got your place-based justification as well. You need to do that per sub-question, okay? Now, if you do all of that, you do all of that, okay, then you are looking at a level 3 intro section, okay, but you have to do it well. The literature review, I would expect the best of us to be doing page and a half, 2 pages, okay? That is a really strong literature review. And that's what we want. We want a strong literature review, well worded. Yeah, it's not just a series of bullet points and sentences. It needs to be nice and coherent. It needs to read well. You need to teach me a lesson. Okay. Being able to articulate yourself on one of these topics is again going to go towards a good mark. And like you were told when you signed up for geography, it's an essay subject. Yeah, it's a tough essay subject. So your hypotheses you'll lay out like this, and again underneath you'll have your expectations. Okay. So hopefully that gives you enough of an overview of the intro to at least get you started with it. Now, I've shown you the timelines and shared with you the timelines already. I've already said to you that I know this is a tight turnaround for this. Okay. Now we are where we are with it. Um, I would have wanted you to have more time with this, but like I said, we are where we are. Okay, and we have to deal with what we have to deal with. So the introduction section, I'm giving you the aim of having it complete by the 1st of October. Yeah, that's pre-field trip. If you can have your introduction done pre-field trip, you're in a very, very strong position. If you can then get the methods done by the 14th of October. Yeah, so when we come back from Grange, there will be another Thrive session where I'll talk to you about the importance of the methodology and how you're supposed to lay that out. And then by the 4th of November, so giving you an extended period, your data will hopefully be collected by then because I'm hoping the majority of you are going to collect your data in Grange. If not, then you can have an extension on this 4th of November if you need to go and collect some data. But the earlier we can get you out there and collecting that data, the better because the weather doesn't exactly lend itself to solid data collection. And then by the 9th of December, we would like all of you to have a first draft completed. Okay. Now that first draft will allow us to have a look, see where everyone is, and then at that point we will go into right, what advice do we need to give to, or guidance do we need to give for specific people to bump their marks up a little bit. Okay, but we can't give you specific advice. We can't tell you what to do, but we are allowed to guide you. We are allowed to sort of say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? What could you do here? Is there any way you can improve this bit? So we can give guidance, but we can't give specific feedback. Okay. Now, once again, I am going to say the support is there for you. The support is there for you. We appreciate this is a really tough task for students at your stage. So um, we are putting on the support. So this is just a reminder of what is available to you. You've got your breakfast club Monday to Thursday, referrals Thursdays 1 till 2. Now, I've got an idea for an NEA accelerator program over the October half term to really kind of speed those people up who want to get it out of the way. Because honestly, the sooner we can get this coursework out of the way, the sooner it's no longer hanging over you as a source of stress. Yeah, because the sooner we can get that out of the way, then we're focusing on what the 80% of the course is, which is the exam. And as much as possible, we want to get this done and get you focused on the examination, which is where I'm sure you all feel you need the additional training. Okay. So hopefully that helps. I'll be sending this video out to your parents as well, so they're fully informed about what's going on about the NEA process. And once again, anything that they might want further clarity on, they are more than welcome to give me an email. All right, so hopefully that helps.